Good evening. How y'all doing? It's been a kind of long Sunday, you know, doing this, doing that. Um, but wanted to just, come in, talk about stuff, chop it up, be my normal self. Uh, look, very much forward to doing the Sunday address. They're very, very, very helpful to my progress as a person and to my ability to reach out and kind of say things that are on my mind that I would like, because you can't just pull up your recorder every single time you think of something to say, or you don't always have the mind to do it. So there's been a lot of times in the past where I've been like, man, that'd have been nice if I could have shared that, and I couldn't share with anybody. And as I slowly got more comfortable with with the whole YouTube thing and sharing with people, it became like a little bit easier to do. So I guess, as I've gotten better at that, I've used the platform to do different things, but I'm not so much secretive as it is that I do like my privacy. You know, I don't impede on what anybody else is doing. I would gladly accept if they did the same thing for me and showed a little reciprocity. Um, but however, I wanted to talk about a couple things that are on my mind. I want to get to this email first before I start talking about things that have been permeating through my brain. And the email was from my sister Adrian Smith, I want to say, and she asked me. Let me see if I can just pull up the email. She's talking about the prophecies and what they have to do with civil rights in particular. And she says, Scribe says that he thought that we had a chance to leave during the civil rights. Pretty much what did I think about it? And to be perfectly honest, I mean, I've never really, I mean, I've always thought my own thoughts about civil rights as I got older. When you listen to more people and you listen to the different views on it, and not to get boggled down in that, and just to address how I feel about the prophetic nature of civil rights. Um, one can argue to support it or to diminish it. Um, for me, it's not so much as what is not on the table. It's what has it done, and it's what does it continue to do. One moment. However, uh, we just have these things that like if I bring up the Bible right now, right, and I open it up to Exodus, I forget which chapter, but it's getting to the part where they leave Egypt, and it pretty much says that like the children of Israel were in Egypt for 430 years. So even if I were to speak on that, I'd have to go to the reference of how many people think that that was the 400-year sojourning when we all know it wasn't, because it's not like they didn't know the land because they were born there, and it's not a foreign land to anybody because people who are genetically related to them are still within the bounds of the land. So there's several things that go against um, the prophecy have being fulfilled during the duration of the stay of the children of Israel in Egypt. But with that said, the civil rights movement, um, in order for you to say that we could have left then, one would have to argue that we were already here for 400 years. But that would mean that we got here in 1560. So until a person actually can look up, pinpoint the exact day that they started bringing people from the western part of what is called Africa, then we're not going to really have a clear understanding of that. As a child growing up, I'm talking about for years and years and years and years and years, I was taught that 1597 was the year, you know, that most slaves were brought here in mass. What up, Martin? How you doing, brother? But I don't let I don't let what I've been told or what is a lie bother me or deter me. And I'm not saying that what anybody has said is a lie. I'm saying that, like, because we're told a lot of lies, we're told a lot of things that are untrue. So sometimes it's not so easy to say, well, this is what this is, or this is what that is. But for a person to argue that we could have been out of here in the 1960s, that would mean 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. That would mean that the slave diaspora would have started 400 years ago from that point. So a person has to have the historical context to support those kinds of notions. Um, do I think that the civil rights was supposed to set up an atmosphere where people would have wanted out of America and this, that, and the other? Yeah, I don't think the civil rights was ever supposed to take place. I don't think the conditions were ever supposed to get better for Black people. So therefore, the idea that we could have left during civil rights, I'm not entirely sure of that. I believe that the civil rights is exactly what the book of Isaiah says it is when, the wicked deviseth wicked devices, even though the needy speaketh right. So when I turn my mind to thinking about what the scripture says, I have to always say, well, this is what the scripture says first. I'm thousands of years displaced, like everyone else is thousands of years displaced. So the best we can do is infer about a situation as such. Do I think that there were men who back in that time who were going to be some of the men who were called the false prophets? Yes, I do. Because they had the ability to sway the minds of the people to ask the Father to rescue us or to at least set in motion the the atmosphere needed for people to call on to the Father, and they did neither one. So this is why I can say that I see the credence of there being what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Prophetic um, revelation. But I'm just not sure if the civil rights movement itself was meant for all that, because can a person tell me when the love of the Black man had waxed cold, or when the Black woman had really hated her family, her husband and her children, you know? So it's like when they can pinpoint, a time other than now, then I can say, yeah, that's probably right. Because we have people who are asking Black people for things that I think are far more unreasonable than what the Blacks during the civil rights were asking people for. You have Blacks now who are asking their people to go and to picket sign and protest for people who don't look anything like that. Their Black leaders 80 years ago would have never asked for something like that. 70, 60, 50 years ago would have never asked for something like that. That would have been unreasonable. It would have been the mindset of, until we can improve the condition for Black people, we can't even think about these other people. But because the civil rights has given people the false perception of advancement and progress, they now believe that there is a scope and range and ability to stick up for other parties who they think are not capable of standing up for themselves, when in fact they just choose not to. So before I carry on and go down a tangent like that, I just wanted to say, like, that's how it goes. That's how it works. A lot of people say whatever, but the civil rights to me is is not just a flop of what was the highest levels of black leadership in the country. It was a flop of the spiritual leadership of all people in this country. For a Gentile man to say that he believes on the Most High or believes in the Most High and lacked the discernment to see that there was something wrong with the situation, it's all incredible to me. Um, I think a lot of people forget that every prophet doesn't speak on the same prophecies that the other prophets speak on. A prime example, the prophet Habakkuk. Um, if you read the actual chapter, he speaks on when the people toil in fire and in vain. Sounds like when the broad walls, you know what I mean, of Babylon come down and its high gates. And the people do what? Toil and fire in vain. These are just small things that I always like have to think about and take into consideration, because if we're not willing to be honest with ourselves, then nothing will change. Um, it's direly unfortunate that the civil rights did what it did to black people, because now we're at a point in the junction where black men and black women are having to air out their dirty laundry in front of all these people on the internet, as opposed to handling it behind closed doors. It's been a drag out fisticuff battle between black people and so-called black people, venting and I mean, some of the people have valid points. Don't get me wrong, but some of the people don't have any points. Um, so when I'm listening to the things that these people say, sometimes I have to remind myself that they truly don't care about anything other than trying to be lucrative and trying to make money. Then I have to remember that other people, they actually have a mission, they have a goal intended in mind. And sometimes it's not always easy to see their goal because they don't want you to see their goal until, they get to that point. Um, I still have to say, though, that for black men and black women to have aired out all these grievances for the world to see speaks on the condition of the black man and black woman's standing ground with each other, the relationship with one another. It's horrendous for people to say that they think that, oh, black love is as powerful or as strong or whatever as it's ever been, but divorce is at an all-time high. Um, um, Abortions, among certain groups are at an all-time high within specific age groups. The lack of the birth of children is at an all-time high. Um, there are so many different little things that go into it. So once again, if I go back to the civil rights, when the black population was at a time in comparison fairly robust, um, um, and the population, even though what seemed like it was oppressed, it was still thriving. So when we go back to these times, and then we equate in things like Roe v. Wade, if that is not a wicked device, that the wicked did devise it against the needy, though they spoke righteous things, I don't know what is. I don't know what telling people to come together and formulate plans with the same people that have been destroying you for hundreds of years. If that's not wicked, I don't know what is. So for me to say that the civil rights was the time that we were exactly supposed to be up out of here, I don't know that. Do I feel like that was a time where the atmosphere should have been set for us to be out of here much easier? Yes, I do feel that way. But the evil ones have read the same book. They've read that there's a chance that they could taint all people and that the Most High would have to come back and destroy everything. So what do you think their idea is? is to taint everyone to whatever level that they can, hoping the Most High comes back. They're seeking to circumvent, they're trying to circumvent the prophecies in their own ways. So this is why I see the level of legitimacy in the argument that the civil rights held some sort of prophetic bounds, but I also do believe that at that time we weren't meant to be let go either. If blacks had ever taken a serious step back from society and said that we won't work, we won't do this, we won't do this, these are things that they've never done that would have helped usher in a whole new mindset. They don't have a mindset because they still think that they can make it in this country. So as long as people believe that their sovereignty is at stake, that's okay. That's okay. I'm glad that I got to you, whoever that is. I'm glad I stuck it right into your soul, because that's what you get for listening. So, however, that's the problem. That's the problem. There is no proper atmosphere for anything. If anyone wants to tell me right now that they think that single parent households are a strong foundation onto which you can build people who have strong structural integrity within themselves, right? Structural integrity within self, not a freaking building. Okay. Spiritual integrity. You understand that? And then their mental integrity, their emotional integrity. So that way, things like substance, finances, oh, don't worry about it, y'all. They're all, it'll weigh itself out. But they never do this because they're raised by their mother or their father, God forbid, is a single father. And guess what happens to him? He dies normally when they're a freaking teenager. I've seen this happen so many times. Or he dies when they're a young person. I've seen this happen so many times. And that normally destroys young women, destroys them. That creates more whores than men who are actually able to talk a woman out of her drawers or whatever this guy thinks he's doing. Facts. This is a truth that I've seen in my life repetitiously. I've seen an unknowable number of men raised exclusively by their mothers become failures wholeheartedly. I love being black. I love being black. Please. I love it. I just hate the fact that other people would rather treat me like as if because I'm black, I don't know anything. However, I'm not worried about you, Mr. Kurz. I'm talking about what I'm talking about. So this whole civil rights thing and this whole prophecy thing, right? The reason why they line up together is because there was a mindset that people were supposed to get to. They were supposed to have come into wanting the Most High, wanting to be with the Most High. They never got there. They never got there. If you can tell me right now that the movement of the civil rights was not about equality and it was not about being treated as if they were the same as everyone else, then you are a liar. Bold-faced. This is why whenever people speak on things like this is why people hate it, because it's the truth. If I told you right now that the atmosphere is as close as it's ever been to the civil rights, you wouldn't even believe me. But you don't even have the perception to understand it. It doesn't matter. Malcolm X was a black guy who was a Muslim. Muslims, if you didn't know anything, that's a Turkic faith. The Turks are white people, right on? So not only was he telling people to praise another white man, right on, but he was telling people that even though he knew of the atrocities done by the white man because he had met white Muslims, that somehow that absolved the white man of his wrongdoings. And so therefore now we can join hands and kumbaya with the white people too. So don't act as if Malcolm X didn't try to turn over this whole new, oh no, let's include the white man into his mindset also. Don't act like that's not what happened. So please, when he went to Mecca, When he went to Mecca, that is pretty much what destroyed his understanding within the faith that he so-called believed, which is the Islamic faith. But because he was in the Nation of Islam, started by one Fard Muhammad, who was a Turk himself, thank you very much. The man was a freaking prisoner, was a known con man, and all sorts of things. But I'm not even going to go into that, because if you don't know that, you need to look that up yourself. However, the fact of the matter is this, is that the civil rights did so much to be a detriment to Black people that look at where Black people are at now. They've gained nothing. They've gained not a thing from any of it. Tell me what civil rights has done for Black people. Not a thing. They already had employment before all of it. Before you say anything, they've always had a job in this country. They started off as slaves. Black people have been employed since day one, since they got here. Don't you talk to me about the fucking unemployment rate with Black people. They've been working since they got here, dog. Okay? That's number one. Number two, as far as being industrious and creative, let's just go back to the cotton gin. Eli Whitney got the cotton gin off of a slave. Can you dig that? Okay? So look, when you talk about being creative and then hardworking, those are two things that you need to be a so-called American today. These are two staples they came here with already. And they came here with know-how, the ability of workmanship, things that they weren't taught by any man that so-called enslaved them here or made them an indentured servant here on this land. So whenever people say what they're saying, there has to be credence and evidence to it. If there's no credence, there's no evidence, then that means that what you're saying is simply an opinion, what you believe. If I say what I believe, I more than likely will go somewhere else to edify what I'm saying. I don't need a person to believe me, though. I don't need anybody to take into consideration what I'm saying, because that's not what I asked for. What I asked for is a chance just to be heard. So that way, when you listen to all the other people say what they're saying, at least there's a counter argument, a counterbalance. There is a countermeasure to all the things that you are being bombarded with. My countermeasure? Simple. Why is it that people can't accept that if, once again, the civil rights was a time in which we were supposed to get free? If they can accept that that's the case, that means that slavery started long before 1619, long before. And then people need to come to terms with certain grips and realities. Yes, they do. That means that when they talk about all these Blacks that were here when Columbus never touched ground, but his conquistador troops touched ground, all those Aboriginal Blacks that were already here, those aren't Black people that you are right now to this day. And it gives credence to the physical appearances that other Black people have, like straight hair, regardless of how dark their skin is, or tight little beads and very light facial hair, regardless of how dark or light their skin is. Or people who look just like me, regardless of how dark or light their skin is. So let's get back to civil rights, because I really want to harp on that, because there's a lot of things about the civil rights that I never ever talk about. Let's talk about, once again, how many people were murdered during the civil rights. Okay, I'm totally off prophecy. Let's just talk about the people that were murdered for a moment. If anyone can justify that to me, tell me how. And then tell me how there's never been cases to bring up the police departments, since there's no statute of limitations on murder. If the statutes have changed where in which the cops can apply deadly force, I don't see how they can't retrograde this to the laws. I don't understand it. I'll never get it. Let's talk about something else that I don't get. If we're going to talk about shit like civil rights, let's talk about the fact that people think it's justice that a guy like Jack Johnson or a young man like Emmett Till will have a case You know, either be pardoned or have their case reopened, when it's like there's no justice for them. They're dead. There can be no justice served for them. There can be no justice served. Are they going to go find the people that beat Emmett Till to death? Are they going to go find their families and say, you know what? Since we didn't do this to your grandfathers, we're going to do it to you? No, that's not going to happen. You understand? So this is why I can say what I say. I can stand on what I stand on, because I stand on just a little bit of something, just a little bit. People talk all this smack about, oh, when Dr. King was coming to the end of his life, he came into these revelations that he had integrated his people into a burning building, into a burning house. Check this right here out. Before he decided to do anything, he didn't integrate anyone. He didn't pass any legislation. He didn't do anything. Okay? All right? He was the figurehead for a movement of wickedness that the white man ordained. You really believe that the civil rights movement would have jumped off if the white man didn't want it to? If the white man felt like we can't let this happen? Because once it jumped off, the unintended consequences were there were real leaders that were rising up, that were actually amassing crowds of people who were listening to them. That was an unintended consequence of the civil rights movement, because they thought that the faces like Dr. King and faggot gay people like Bayard Rustin were going to be the only ones that people listened to. But what happened was, in fact, there were guys like Demetrius Antoine Jones, right? I'll use myself for example, who stood up, said something, and then in the twilight of night were sleeping in their homes and got killed in their fucking sleep because they stood up. And they didn't know that standing up was going to cost them everything. So whenever people get done saying what they're going to say, whenever people open their mouths to spew the nonsense that they're going to spew, when they talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, go ahead and bring in the fact that they weren't afraid of the man running for president. No, they weren't afraid of that. They were afraid of the man's message turning militant. That's what they were afraid of. They were afraid of the fact that guys like him and Malcolm X had sit-downs, even though Malcolm X openly bashed Dr. King. Let's talk about Malcolm X then again for a moment. Let's talk about the fact that when he first joined the Nation of Islam, it had only like 250 members or something like that. It grew to the size of like what was it? 50,000 or something like that. 60,000 people. You know, it's since then it's declined, you know, very much. But he pretty much brought the numbers up exponentially by himself. One man did that. You see what I'm saying? He was an unintended consequence for their movement. And this is why they killed Malcolm X. And if you guys don't understand this, Louis Walcott, aka Louis Farrakhan, is Fard Muhammad's son. I cannot stress this enough. This is why he never reveals who his father is. This is why they celebrate Savior's Day in the Nation of Islam, which is Fard Muhammad's birthday. Can't stress this stuff enough. These are small things that people, once again, and then they'll tell you things like, you're African. It was dirty bastards like Fard Muhammad who were peddling shit like dashikis way back in the day. Way back in the day. This guy was the one he's the one who started that whole Dr. Yaqub, Professor Yaqub nonsense. Double brain scientist from Middle Earth. I wonder where he got the concept of Middle Earth from, though. However, understand it was a white man who peddled that thought onto the black people. I have the article. I mean, not the whole article, but I have the picture of the clip from the article saying, white man is god of Islamic cult. You know, then I have another one calling the same dude a freaking ex-Turkish agent. This is the kind of thing that people will readily overlook and ignore because it suits them. It suits them to say that, you know what, I never knew that about Fard Muhammad, or I never knew that about Malcolm X. That is totally beneficial to the party to play ignorance. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Right on. But for anybody else, if I were to say to you right now that, well, I'm ignorant of something and we're at a legal procedure, any judge will tell you that ignorance is not an excuse in the eye of the law. So if ignorance not be an excuse in their eyes, can't be an excuse in my eyes either. So just because a person didn't take the time to informate themselves on a very basic level and type it on Google, what is civil rights? Who were civil rights leaders? What did the civil rights accomplish? What are people's complaints about civil rights? Things like that. I mean, there's so many different little things that they could do. I personally feel in my mind and in my heart and soul that there's too many people who haven't accepted the damage that civil rights has done. It's done a lot of damage. It's done great damage. People can say, oh, black people are far better off than they've ever been. There's more educated, more literate, more this, more that. Slaves weren't educated. The first free people to be let out of slavery weren't educated, but they were skilled workers and skilled laborers. And it didn't affect their ability to be able to verbalize or articulate themselves. So when people use the word education, what kind of education are they talking about? Because a skill will further take you anywhere than any degree ever will. If a man has cut open bodies and performed what are called surgeries and has never, ever, ever went to school for it, but he has the practical, hands-on knowledge of such procedures, he is far more intelligible than any person who's read the books, seen diagrams, seen videos of it, because he's done it himself. She's done it herself. These are things that people have yet to truly recognize, understand, and accept. There's another basis to all this outside of the civil rights. It is the fact that there are black people who have been rogue blacks since this country began. There were blacks who since this country began never wanted blacks to get free, believe it or not. Right. So when you talk about what is this or what isn't this, you need to understand the mindset of the people that you're dealing with. Because some of the people that you're dealing with really don't have a healthy mindset. They really do believe something that is not true. And give me one moment. But a bigger issue within the civil rights is the fact that we as people still hate ourselves. So how do you fix that? Right. You don't right. All the self-hate, all the self-loathing, all the apathy. These are things that because they've never been addressed, won't ever be addressed. Black people, even if they gave black people their own country right now to this day, left them all alone, didn't bother them. Black people are so broken as a people at this current stage in their lives and our existence that we would only get so far until so much infighting once again caused for us to implode upon ourselves. People don't want to hear this. There has to be so much spiritual, mental, emotional healing to take place before black people can pick up and just go. There has to be. And there has not been. And there will not be in this country such a happening that people will finally feel alleviated from knowing that their ancestors were slaves, that they were deprived of basic amenities, that they weren't given the fair shake that all the other people were given when they came here. That now Only now they'll call our ancestors immigrants. But before, we were primarily and exclusively slaves. So, because of such things, it's very hard. It's going to be very difficult, challenging for the Black population, regardless of their true genetic status, if they've been birthed in this country and have ancestral roots in this country. It's going to be much more difficult for them to wipe off the stain of what is oppression. When you allow people to go off on their own and be free from what is their indentured, and once again, you never formally apologize, you never formally address or approach the situation as is, as it should be, that will give those people reasons. It gives them actionable cause to do the things that they do. Because what happens is that, well, okay, he thinks about it off and on, but finally, the thought of his mother or his grandmother or his sister or a cousin or an auntie being 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 pushed into a situation where in which they had no choice, no nothing, right? Now they have to accept that. So you're telling a person who's never, once again, never ever formally had their grievance ever approached on any level, never. And to put it in black and white does not mean that it's been approached. Okay? To talk about it does not mean it's been approached. To throw money at it does not mean it's been approached. They treat the black situation like a wild panther. They fucking, everybody has their spears out and their javelins out, and they don't want to get too close. Because if they do, it might affect them. So this is why, once again, I always say what I say. You know, there's certain things I just don't believe. I will never believe that people who have told us that they're superior, yet genetically they're recessive or inferior, are superior to me. I can't believe that. So therefore, in the same message and notion, I can't believe that those same people that have done so much damage to us are going to be able to help fix us. They can't help us. They can do nothing for us. And until black people wholeheartedly accept this and take this on the chin, it's never going to change. Ain't nothing going to change. And you can bet your top, middle, and bottom dollar on that one, my friends. Because for some odd reason, I feel like I'm the only person who will call out the things as it stands, as they are. And I'm not afraid to. And it costs me every time. Every time it costs me whenever I call something out. Every time it costs me if I stand up for somebody and do something for somebody that other people feel that I shouldn't do. It costs me. Right now, I have a legal proceeding going on, a civil case. When I say what I'm going through would have made most black men capitulate, give into, otherwise surrender on whatever regards and causes, trust and believe most people would have acquiesced willingly and gave up their rights. But just like the same judge that I haven't filed a judicial misconduct against yet, nor will I until the time comes, what good are rights if people waive them all the time? Right. If you just waive your rights, what good are they? That's not even a right if you just waive it. And I don't believe in rights. I believe in liberties, as y'all understand. This is my whole new thought process out of the situation that I've experienced over this last couple months now. There is going to be a reckoning one day, just not now, for all the things that have happened. I do believe that the civil rights or whatever that movement was, I do believe that there was a purpose for that. I just think that the people were supposed to have come into unison to understanding that all of us black people are not all the same black people. And that was one thing that I think we were going to come to terms with. And then another thing would have been is that we as so-called black people, we would have gotten within our groups of who we are. That's what we would have done, but we never congealed together ever. We never that never ever happened like that. It was just all black people as black people. You know what I'm saying? And and it's just one of those things where you just have to just really, 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 really understand what's happening. Martin, if you're still here, man, handle that, please. And this is just one of those things that I don't know where to begin. I could easily, once again, just blame black people for all their problems, all their situations, and say, forget blaming the white man. He's got nothing to do with it. I could just blame the white man, right on, and absolve the black man of all of his wrongdoings, you know? So I would rather give the proper credence to the proper things. I would rather say what it is than what it is not. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that, bro. And it's just one of those things where I've never understood it. And I think I see why, I would get so upset as a child when people would talk about slavery who weren't black. I think I see why now, as a young teenager, as a young man, I would get upset when people talked about poor people and they were never poor and they never suffered. I see why now because I've suffered on a level that other black people have, especially black men. And because I've suffered at that level, my grievance is only as such that things that do harm us as people should be addressed. But things that we do that bring us harm, we should be willing to say it is our own fault. It's not the fault of a man who does not know you that you don't have anything. It's not the fault of a man who's never oppressed you that you are oppressed. But a man who has gained from the ill-gotten gains of your oppression, you understand? He is at fault. Though he absolves himself from all things and all wrongdoings by saying simply, I did not do that to said such individual or groups at appointed place and time. This is why these things will always go uncontested, because people believe that the legitimacy of such words hold clout when they hold no clout. Biblically speaking, there is a term called the avenger of blood. And the avenger of blood is pretty much one who takes it upon themselves to avenge the blood of a relative who has been slain. Now, the ultimate premise and idea is that one who is avenging the blood of another is avenging the blood of a relative who was slain in wrongdoing. One who has discerned what is wrong or what is righteous shall act upon this accordingly. Now, let me go ahead and say this. If the avenger of blood avenges the blood of their fallen a loved one, they then can now they can then fall under the canon for this person to avenge the blood of the relative. So and all that does depend on how that all falls out. But these are just things that people don't know, they don't understand. So therefore, they have no concept of it. When there is someone to blame and there is someone to hold accountable, that person should be held accountable, regardless if it's by the party that was afflicted originally or if it's by a party who is able to hold them accountable. Now, with that said, the parties that are holding them accountable should also should also know that you have to know what it is that you're holding them accountable for. What wrongdoing, under what pretense and circumstance. This is why it is so important to have litigation, or what they call litigation. So that's the importance of it, is that it gives one the ability to speak up for themselves effectively. What would you do if you weren't black? Black people, would you still care? Right. I ask myself that all the time. And it's not to guilt trip you, but it's to reality check you. If you weren't black, would you care so much? Would you stand up for black people the way you do? Would black empowerment or black sovereignty or any of that stuff matter to you? That matters. That's a very crucial question. The reason why I asked the question is because we're at this junction where people are telling us that mixed people are black people now, based on a standard that a white man set. So either we as black people will make our own standard, our own standards, and keep and hold them, or we are in effect simply dabbered down white people. And all we want to do is be white people. I know I don't, but I'm just saying that if one cannot accept that, then they only want to be a white person, whether they get it or not. It's not a blessing to be born in cursed skin, but it's also not cursed. You're also not as cursed as you think you are. If there's a blessing at the end of this for a chosen group of people who have done what few have done, and that is stay the course. Anybody can show up to a church and so-called give 10% of their tithes. Any person can do that. Anyone can do that. But will anyone say, you know what? I believe in the Most High, even though I'm facing, possible loss of tenancy from my home. I'm facing the loss of financial dividends. My mental sovereignty as a citizen is being questioned, and my sovereignty as a man overall is in question. And when you can handle these things and take them in stride, as we should, then you can say crazy things because you're taking them in stride. You're doing what it is that you're supposed to do. But you can't say anything if, once again, the whole premise of your black empowerment is so that way you can go and lay down with other people who aren't black, so that way you can call your part black or half black child a black person now. And then to force black people to accept people who have never been treated in such a fashion to be called black now. It is an insult. It is an insult to me. Because I, as a black man, I can't do that. I can't go to a Chinese family or to any family, get a woman pregnant, pass the baby off as, no, now the baby's Chinese. Now the baby's this, now the baby's, that's not how it works. To them, the baby's still just a black person, or it's mixed. It's an abomination, even worse. So when you have this sentiment in the world, and it has never changed, understand that there's people who look alike from cultures that are similar, where if they mix blood with one another, they think that they're abominations and they look alike. So I have a hard time believing that people who don't look anything alike, have nothing in common, their cultures and value are totally diametrically opposed, are going to tell me that what they're doing is in some way not wrong, not immoral, and therefore, once again, what comes from this situation is not abominable. I just have a hard time believing that. No other group of people does this or tries to do this. And once again, no other group of people is under such fire. So I do understand why people are like, well, my mixed son is black or my mixed daughter is black, regardless of what parent is black. But for me personally, one moment. For me personally, I just have to say that as a black man who, not to be vulgar to anyone or not to make anyone angry at me, but there's a difference between a pole and a hole. There's a big difference. So if you're going to tell me that a spermicide or a sperm cell and an egg are the same and that they serve the same function, I'm going to call you a liar and a bold-faced one. So one person gets the other person pregnant, the other person holds the baby. So that means that the seed that is received by the woman, in effect, is the man. So the child, in effect, is more so this man's. So that means that this is a white man's baby when he has ejaculated into this black woman. This is a Mexican's baby in that case, an Asian man's baby, whatever the diaspora, other than a black person that is her people. That is that person's baby. And vice versa, going on to, once again, this black man who goes on off to have children with these other people, who believes that, oh, as long as I just breed out, my children will be all right. And for some people this works, but for a lot of people it doesn't, because you can't breed out genetics in one generation. It takes several. And then once again, while you're breeding out those genetics, you have to realize that human nature can always kick in. Who's to say that you're going to feel the same way in 10 years that you felt 10 years back? So who's to say that that mixed baby that you had, that you felt so strongly about, that you were so esteemed of, now are you so esteemed of them still? Some people ride it out because they have no choice, because they already made their bed, so therefore they have to lay in it. But other people wake up at 50 and 60 years old and say, you know what, I'm out of here, because this is a lie that I have lived and that I am living right now. And I will no longer go forth in such a manner. There were other people who it didn't take them children to realize that they were wrong. It took treatment to realize that they were wrong. Though they treated this person with the utmost respect, they didn't receive any. Though they were courteous to this other person's family, their family wasn't courteous to them. Though they were a provider, they weren't appreciated. These are things that, because other people don't understand, that this can happen within the household of a black man with a black woman. So why would I want to go out to a household of a non-black woman and then have the same thing happen to me, or eventually could happen to me? Once again, people talk about the infidelity. If infidelity didn't exist in another community, then that would totally make sense, and that would be a valid argument. But it's made null and void of the fact that that's not the case. So that the fact that people will leave their own community to go to other communities to suffer the same atrocities, only now there is no way to state their grievance, is truly upsetting. It is totally upsetting. However, I speak these things because they're on my mind, and I should speak them. Speak these things because if I didn't speak them, I feel like there are days where in which I talk certain days and I'm just being me and I'm just chopping it up. And right now, today is one of the days where I'm actually in like top-notch speaker form, and I feel really good about this. And so, I just want to just, and my normal loquacious nature, talkative, chatty, whatever, that I deliver to you something that I feel is very original. It's just as authentic or just as the same feel as anything else. But this is once again, I haven't had this much energy in years. Years and years and years and years and years. And it feels amazing to stand up for myself on a level where in which a while ago, maybe I would have felt that I needed counsel or legal representation. It feels really good. So at this point in my life where, for years and years and years, I might have thought that I, was able to protect myself or do this or do that. For me to finally just come to the conclusion, like, you know what, you can't protect yourself, you can't do anything. There's nothing. I can't really do anything. I'm subject to the ever-changing circumstances. And so long as I can accept what the circumstances are as they change, there is a possibility that I may survive. And I would gladly extend this thought process to any one of you to pick up and imbue it. It is a gift and a blessing to be alive. It is, it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. I have never, ever, ever felt like I could fight the court systems all by myself. Never. Always thought like for sure you need a lawyer. And then it's like now that I've gotten to that point to where I'm like, you know what? People hire mechanics or automotive technicians because of what? Because they're not and they don't have enough understanding. But people who do don't. People who eat out all the time do that because they can't cook. You see what I'm saying? The other people who don't, it's because they can cook. We're headed to a level in the mindset of our blackness where you will see many people challenge their own fortitude as a black man or a black woman who've been good black people, not just good people but good black people, because we have to compartmentalize who we are from everyone else right now, because this is a problem with the whole world, is that this whole we're all one blood, we're all one people. Well, that only applies until, we're trying to get jobs or until we're talking about the mating process. So everyone else, it's all good if they screw a black woman, that's fine. But if a black man calls himself sleeping out, you know what I mean? Not only is he going to catch flack from black people, which he deserves, which the black woman also deserves, but he's going to catch flack from the group of people where in which he's bred himself into. And these brothers almost never talk about it, but they become insensitive and and uh desensitized to jokes about things that they should never laugh about, that they should actually take very much offense to. But because once again these people are taught to think a certain way, see, and how they're taught to think is that you have to get in to fit in and you have to fit in to get in. So they don't want to ruin what it is that they think that they've accumulated or accomplished just by being able to marry out. And how that's an accomplishment, I don't know. To make a successful marriage within, it would be an accomplishment. I would think for a black woman or a black man to go out and to give children or to have children by someone else other than their own people, and then for their life to not be as challenging as other black people, and then to blame black people for their own problems, once again, it speaks volumes as to who they are as a person. Volumes. It says everything about them. It says everything about the true backbiting nature it is that they were taught to imbue. And it says everything that they've been taught by their handlers, be it the Asians, be it the Islanders, be it the Hispanics/Latinos, be it the whites, or the Africans for that matter. Because there is nothing worse than a person who can tell me, brother, you are my brother. But yet, out of his same breath, he'll be like, your people are descendants of slaves. I come from a bloodline of people who had never slaved. So when you deal with that kind of shit from people, and then everybody, once again, wants you to kowtow to them and bow down and just take it up, I say no. I say forget that. I say black men and black women should only be with black men and black women. And that's it, that's all. And that's the end of that discussion. For all these other people out there who think that we're going to get off the uh the uh the pity wagon one day. Black people never will. Because he said, once again, we're talking about the scripture. Right on. So I said, pity me. And no one would. But the Most High will pity you. Don't worry. I guarantee that. I guarantee that. These people are, they're sick. They're sick. Once again, we have never had any of our emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, any of that trauma ever addressed. And Black people, especially other Black men who've accumulated just a little bit, expect all other Black people to just be able to figure it out like they did. Yet they will overlook certain circumstances that were either beneficial or helpful to them. And they do this willingly. And they say, you know what, Black people, since I pulled myself out the mud, so can you. But you didn't tell anybody you were in the shallow end of the mud, not in the middle of it. This is the problem. This is the issue. And no other thing can I really stress more than that there are Black people who compare themselves to other Black people all the time to diminish them, not to build them up, not even hope to build them up. I would love if Black people were like, you know what, Demetrius, let me give what you're saying a chance for 2 weeks. And if in 2 weeks you're telling me that by me doing things differently, the devil's going to attack me and things that normally wouldn't happen to me are going to start happening to me that are unfortunate, but I'm going to have things that are so refreshing take place that you know it's the Most High himself sending these signs to give you comfort and aid in your mind, right? You see what I'm saying? Then give me my 2 weeks. And then call me a liar or confirm me. But because once again, we're dealing with a group of people who have yet to accept that they cannot help themselves, nor will they ever be able to. It's because of this that we are not going to. It won't change. It won't change. I can't stress that enough. It's not going to change here. It just won't. Black people have to accept that we're broken. And that once we get past that we're broken, then we can start talking about, okay, well, how do we get fixed? How do we get healed? Well, we have to get, the first way to get healed is by being up out of here and being able to leave and take things with us. And then being able to go somewhere where we can take a deep breath. And the naysayers and the evil people among us can be dealt with on that accord, as they should be, because the laws of this land don't allow us to deal with those people accordingly. And for people to really seek what it is the highest form of deity, the Most High, the creator of all things. And some people like to call him Yah, or Yahweh, or Yahuwah. Whatever it is that you understand, that you think you understand, that you believe and have clung to as faith, I totally get it. And I'm with you. I would just only say to you that please temper it with patience and always seek to learn more things that you don't know, because you can never know enough. You can never know enough things that can benefit you, that can help you, that you can use to help another person. Normally, most of the time, why we suffer once again as Black people is because we don't study. And by study, I don't mean just read, I mean just observing and watching and listening and actually just experiencing. We don't study. We just want to exist. Acknowledge your existence and experience it and truly live. And live. Because it's an evil thing to be on a planet where just about everywhere you could go, you're probably going to be the low down person in their mind, and nothing will ever change about that. What up, brother? How you doing? So it's just one of those things. What do you do? What do you say? You know, how do you change? How do you change how people think? Their mentality. Once again, it's not about trying to change them. It's just giving them the tools that they can help themselves with. It's not about giving people money all the time. It's about like actually equipping them with information. Everybody doesn't have strong literary skills. So you know what? If you're a really good friend and a really good one, you record for them. And you send it to an email or you send it to their phone. So that way they can listen to it. The same information they would have had to read. People are like, oh, there's programs that can do that. They don't have any money. How are they going to pay for it? Right. If you don't have any money, how are you going to pay for it? But you're literate, very literate. These are small things that you can do. Love your people. Love yourself. Love your God. Love our God. Love Him. Because the lack of love for self means that one cannot tell me that they truly love the Most High. Even when I don't like myself, I always love the Most High. Even if I know I'm wrong, I always love the Most High. Even when I'm at a moment where I may even feel like I hate myself, I still love the Most High. But I know that in order to love the Most High, I must love myself. So I find love for myself in all those moments. Because you must be able to appreciate yourself in order to truly love Him. Because you must appreciate what it is that He's given you, which is the thought to think, thank you, Father, for all that you have done, all that you won't do, and all that you will do. Hallelujah. And people don't understand that. They can never understand it. It's okay. It's all right. Like I said earlier, literacy has nothing to do with being a skilled anything. You could be the most skillful person in the world, and it more than likely may have nothing to do with the ability to be literate. This is very true. Many different job professions like this that are high paying, that are good money. I respect my people. I love y'all, man. You guys are my man, heart and soul. You know, I just that's why I look forward to all this stuff. What up, Andre? You know, I do. I look forward to this stuff. It's so different. You know, it's just like once again, these people don't want to accept that our God put us here because we're not who we're supposed to be. And that when he does this, decide to accept some of us back into the fold, he's going to admonish and punish most of us. So most of us won't even make it. And we have to be willing, able, and ready to accept that. You know, as things slowly change in my life, slowly it be. I'm gonna slowly change things as I do them ever more. But man, when I say this is just a journey, you know. This is just and it's the right kind of journey. It's the best kind of journey to be on because at least here I know that if someone disagrees, it's not out of malice. It's not because they hate me. It's not because they think that I think I'm a know-it-all. You know, it's because they just disagree, and I can totally appreciate that. Um, I don't know what to say, y'all. The things I had on my mind earlier are not on my mind right now. I kind of went all in on this whole civil rights thing, getting carried away with the whole prophecy concept about it. And I mean, let's just say what it is. If 1619 was the year, 400 years is next year. See what I'm saying? So, in order for us to say anything like that, we'd have to be able to say that slavery started before the 1600s. And we'd have to believe that. I believe that. And I've said that for a long time. But a lot of other people don't believe that. And a lot of people won't say that. So, when you're a lone wolf, so to speak, or you're just a loner, you don't exactly have that luxury. Um, One thing I would like to hit on though, real quick, because I know y'all got lives to live, got work tomorrow, this, that, the other. So I'll give it a few more moments before I decide to cash it on in. But one of the most amazing things that has ever taken place, ever happened to me, was I was 18 years old and I had just left the uh, the depot. We were in a taxi and we were going to the airport. And I remember just talking to the taxi driver because it was me and how many Marines? It was like me and like two or three other Marines. Not that many though. And we just talking to the taxi driver, and these guys are all amped up and all excited and stuff. And I remember just telling them like, I just hope that that I can just stay alive the whole time I serve. And he was like, young man, you got an excellent head on your shoulders. He was like, that's a good way to be. And he stopped the whole conversation just to let those guys know, like, that's what you should want to do. You should want to live. You know, I know he's like, I don't want to say he was Navy. He wasn't a Marine, but I'm pretty sure he was Navy. And it's a really good dude. And it was just one of those things where profound moment of my life because like you don't ever think you just saying something like like I just want to stay alive. You know, and this was an older gentleman too. So I think when people just get older, they just become a lot more sensible to their mortality, and they really do just want to live. You know, and when you just get to that point where I just want to live as much as I can live, and when the Most High says it's up, it's up. That's it. You can't really that kind of mindset is a very healthy mindset to have. It's very healthy. It allows for you to cope with very difficult situations. It allows for you to cope with things that you may believe are unfair. Um, hey sister, how you doing? But it's just a crazy thing, that we go through time in and time out because I don't know where to begin. If once again, like like people don't appreciate being alive. I'm glad to hear you are good to go. That's excellent. People don't want to live anymore though. These young boys, man, they're in a rush to die. The young girls are in a rush to die. Talking nonsense like forever 21. Why would you want to be 21 forever, bro? You haven't even fully muscularly developed at 21 as a man, and that's you want to be stuck that age? Please. I wish black men would just wake up and smell the coffee and just say, you know what? I need to be friends with people who are going to befriend me, who either don't have the means or don't have the willful, wanton intention of doing me harm and ill will. Right, right. So either they don't have the ability or they don't have the intention or both. See what I'm saying? And that's how you got to be thinking. You can't want to be teaming up with people who oh, just because he's got more money, he's got a car, and he's got a house, and he's got all these chicks that are always coming around. Or the young lady who wants to team up with, another lady. Even though women don't always work well together, sometimes they do. For the same type of reason, She seems to be able to get any man she wants. She has a nice car, really nice house. She ain't got no kids. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. It works both ways. So black people have to just realize that living is just enough. Being alive is excellent. Because guess what? Some wicked, dirty bastard is not going to make it to tomorrow. All the good people who are going to die today, as sad as that's as horrible as that is, there's going to be one extremely evil, wicked, treacherous, dirty dealing bastard that goes. You can believe that. Bet your top, middle, and bottom dollar. Bet on that. That's how I feel. What I know, it's what I've seen, it's what I've experienced. So when I say that when I was a young man in a cab drive, just saying that I just wanted to make it through my contract, touching the sensibility of the elder cab driver who was there, I really do feel good about that. I've said a lot of things that have touched people, made their minds or their juices flow. But there are other things that I've kept to myself because I didn't think anyone cared. And that was one of those moments I was going to keep it to myself because they were all talking about how they couldn't wait to go do this training and go do that training. And, you know, I couldn't even think like that. 7:50 Pacific Standard Time right now. So I'm gonna run this out for probably about 10 more minutes, and then I'm gonna, call it a good one. Because I got a lot of stuff I got to do this week. I've got to get the ball rolling on seeing what kind of motions I can possibly file if I get this paperwork in time. Seeing how much it's going to cost to file these motions, each motion, see if it's going to cost me anything. See if I can file the motions before court or if filing them before I go to court would be better. If filing them at court would be better. A lot of stuff. Looking up the revised code of Washington, which is pretty much the state laws, um, and becoming ever more familiar with that again. I cannot stress to y'all one of the most one of the best things you could do. Let's take let me go to Google real quick and I'm gonna pull it up. California State Constitution. California. Whoa. State Constitution. There we go. All right. Voltoppedia.org. And I'm going to share the screen real quick. And I'm just give y'all some game. I don't live in Cali, so you know that this is obviously got nothing to do with what I've got going on. Bam. And bam. Okay, so if You are looking for something in particular because the articles aren't mentioned, they're just numbered, right? So, and there's only 35 articles for their entire, I guess, their entire constitution. So, and each one of these articles is going to have different things, right? So, let me just skip down. Let's say Article 9. Article 9, Section 1. A general diffusion of knowledge and intelligence being essential to the preservation of the rights and liberties of the people, the legislature shall encourage by all suitable means the promotion of intellectual, scientific, moral, and agricultural improvement. Section 2. A superintendent of public instruction shall be elected by the qualified electors of the state at each gubernatorial election. The superintendent of public instruction shall enter upon the duties of the office on the first Monday after the first day of January next succeeding each gubernatorial election. No superintendent of public instruction may serve more than 2 terms. Amendments for that right there approved in 1990, and then it was defeated also again in 1990, whatever the amendment was. Section 2.1, the State Board of Education, on nomination of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, shall only appoint one Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction and 3 Associate Superintendents of Public Instruction, who shall be exempt from state civil service, and whose terms of office shall be for 4 years. Listen, so they're exempt from civil services. You feel me? So they don't have to do any of that stuff that the state may require a person to do as a civil servant. Right. It's huge. This shit's crazy. Let's not even keep reading this. Let's go to a different one. Another article. Article 2. And I don't know anything about any of this stuff. But obviously the site navigation has it to where you can go to the federal level, state, all that stuff. But these are things that people don't do. Don't worry, I'm gonna go back to Google and do one for Texas here in a second. Texas and somewhere else, another state, California. No, not California, but one of the Carolinas. Article 2, darling. Okay, Article 2 of the California Constitution is labeled Voting, Initiative, and Referendum Recall. It has 20 sections. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their protection, security, and benefit. And they have the right to alter or reform it when the public good may require. Stop right there. This is an excellent one. Excellent one to get stuck on. So, once again, most people who live in the state of California probably, don't read up on these things. I know they don't. They only know certain things that actually pertain to, let's say, like their city. Like they might know like Los Angeles municipal code, and, specific laws that pertain to that. Only certain lawyers are going to be so involved in being knowledgeable to the general aspects of all the state laws, let alone the specified aspects of whatever their actual profession is within the lawyer field. With that said, though, let's go ahead and leave this real quick. I'm going to go to Google again, and we're going to type in 1 second because it might be acting funny. So just in case the screen is black on y'all, I want the screen to go back. Texas Constitution, state constitution. There we go. There we go. Ballpedia.org has all this stuff there. That's funny. Ballotpedia. One moment. We've only got 17 articles, but they probably got a bunch of sections, just like, Okay, here we go. Article 1, Texas Constitution. Article 1 is entitled the Bill of Rights. Freedom and sovereignty of state. Texas is a free and independent state subject only to the Constitution of the United States, and maintenance of our free institutions and perpetuity of the Union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. Section 2, inherent political power, public form of government. All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to the preservations of a Republican form of government, and subject to this limitation only. They have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they think expedient. This is why they don't fuck around with them Texans, okay? This is really why. 1 second, but I'm going to share that with you so you can see it on the screen. Bam and bam. Ooh. Okay. However, so this is just stuff to just look at, take it all in. Let's see. Go back. And back again. North Carolina. There we go. Am. This is why you have to type them all in. I'm gonna go to this one because I like to go to different places. Ah, that looks professional. Hope y'all can see it. That one looks way better. I like when it looks like this. This is what I like. Once again, Article 1, Declaration of Rights. That the great, general, and essential principle of liberty and free government may be recognized and established, that the relations of this state to the Union and government of the United States and those of the people of this state to the rest of the American people may be defined and affirmed. We declare that. Section 1, the equality and rights of persons. We hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the enjoyment of fruits of their own labor and the pursuit of happiness. Sovereignty of the people. All political power is vested in and derived from the people. All governments of right originates from the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. Now I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to get too carried away on all this stuff. Just want you to see that it takes nothing. When I say nothing, it takes no thing to pull up a state constitution, nothing, and just read. It takes very little. So this is why I'm always on it with y'all. We're going to do more stuff like this going forward. I said something to Tammy Bowser last week about me possibly doing some stuff the week that just passed. I don't have any kind of work this week except on Thursday. So I would like to do a little study hall, where maybe we get together. I start with the subject and then I check on you guys, within the comments or whatever from time to time, or in the super chat as they call it. And then if you guys have something that you want to look up or talk about in particular, we just focus on that. And then we just hammer away at it. I'm not going to be like one of these guys who tells you stuff and then I won't show you how I get the information. I'll show you everything that I do, everything, And once again, y'all, I love y'all so much. I appreciate y'all so much. Your time is so valuable to me. It really is. I never want you guys to think that I don't appreciate your time. I know you guys, I believe in my heart that you guys know I appreciate it, but it's just one of those things that I constantly must reiterate time and time again. I'm at my wit's end. Um, I just want y'all to have the best week that you can have. I want you to stay calm, stay cool, stay collected, have a plan, keep it simple, make sure it's effective. Don't get in your own way. Be the best you that you are already, and don't do anything else. Anything else is disastrous. Anything else is, as they would say, uncivilized. With that said, all praises to the Most High God of everything. I salute you. It has been a wonderful night, and I thank you for your time.